On July 23rd, we are hosting quite an event at the Bell House in Brooklyn, and you can get your tickets now. Eliza and I will be joined on stage by some of the food world's most interesting figures, including Haley Catalano and Chuck Cruz, and the one and only Padma Lakshmi. We will talk about summer cooking and some of the big topics of the day. The event will also feature a live taping of Bon Appetit's Bake Club with Jesse Shepchek and Shilpa Uskokovic. That's Haley, Chuck, Shilpa, Jesse, and Padma, all appearing on the Bell House stage with Eliza and I. July 23rd is the date. Get your tickets at the Bell House website or the link in our show notes. I hope to see you there.
I think when passion becomes career, you can become really stuck in a routine and you lose the inspiration to make what you originally were loving to make. When I started posting more food videos, I was discovering and kind of feeling that excitement around food again.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Eliza Barbanel. Aimee France is a cake baker and internet personality based in Brooklyn. You may formally know her on Instagram as Young Kombucha 420. Her distinctly bumpy cakes and elaborate eating habits have won over many fans online, and it's so fun to have her into the studio to go deep on her singular perspective on food, from her 3-drink minimum breakfasts to unexpected sources of inspiration.
And at the top of the show, it's the return of Three Things, where Eliza and I talk about what is exciting us in the world of restaurants, cookbooks, and the food world as a whole. Eliza, we're back with Three Things. How are you?
I'm good, Matt. I'm ready to talk 3 things. Do you have a rec for me?
I'm going to start. I just got back from Barcelona. We were doing taste travels there and had an amazing trip. Wonderful travelers, great tour guide. We do these a couple times a year. We're doing one in September with Mauricio Leo. But I got to sneak away from the group and have a couple meals. But this one meal was the real highlight. It was my birthday. I was dining solo. Done that before. June is a busy travel time for work, so I've been on the road during my birthday. And Eliza, I have a place that I think you will like. It's called Ultramarinos Marin. Seafood is the star.
Wow. What did you eat?
I had so many great things. A little bit about the restaurant. It's from a chef named Borja Ordono, and he is a chef that he used to work at Estabari and in some of the great Spanish fine dining temples. And he, a few years back, took over a kind of a dive bar is what I've read about. And Matt Golding gave me this recommendation, helped me with the reservation. He of Roads and Kingdoms, and he's been on the show. So thank you, Matt, for doing that. But what I've read is it's a restaurant that started very humbly and casually and has now become a real go-to. It's kind of a restaurant in 2 phases. And during the day, and I was dining there at night, so I didn't get to see this full grill on display, but it's all about grilled seafood and long fermentation and kind of coupling these crudos and raw fish along with the grill of whole fish, and wood smoking is the thing. So I didn't get to experience that, unfortunately. But what I got to experience, it was all seafood on the plancha. And I was sitting at the bar, and I got to hang out and meet the guy working the plancha. And what a world-changing seafood meal for me. I'll go over some highlights. I think what they do so well is they know temperature. They're either cooking the seafood extremely quickly or they're cooking it hard and hot for texture. So they're thinking a lot about texture. And one of these dishes was the red shrimp, which was just kissed on the grill, probably 20 seconds each side. So when it arrived, it was pretty much raw, but the head was seared. So you had that little bit of smoke, but you're eating this very, very custardy shrimp. What's great about the restaurant is that it's not just the seafood with a little bit of citrus or lemon. They're all about their garum. They're using the Roman-style fish sauce, but it's their house garum. So it's not just the fish sauce, and it actually presented very differently from Roman fish sauce, which can be quite one-dimensional and great, but they were adding, and he would not tell me, I asked him 3 times, but they're adding other components so there's more acidity and sweetness in the sauce. And he's got these giant squeeze bottles, and he's squeezing the plancha before the seafood hits the grill, and then after it, he's grabbing a second bottle and he's dressing it. So the seafood is very dressed. And I loved this about it. I saw this technique time and again. There was a cured bonito, like a really small tuna belly that had a little bit of garum on it as well. Loved that. I kind of shifted away from seafood and had a couple. I had a wonderful jamon iberico and a beef tongue that had been thinly sliced, perfectly presented with some great Spanish cheese. And for the main seafood, I had like a rockfish. It was a local fish, and it was a half fish that was seared hard under weight. So you get that, that sear when you see that fish where it's like kind of flattened out. The head is flattened, and it comes to your table, and it came simply dressed with salt, a little bit of garum, and a side of lemon. And it was deboned really properly, so it wasn't battling bones. Liza, it was so good. For dessert, there was this toccinillo. All it was egg yolks, sugar, and water. It wasn't really a custard. There was no milk in it. But it was like really intense, and the eggs were really, really, really yellow. And it was like the richest dessert after this like kind of light seafood meal. So I walked away. I was so full from the dessert. But I just love this place, Ultramarinos Marin in Barcelona.
That sounds so great. I'm glad you had a nice birthday meal.
Thank you. It was great. What's your first thing?
My first thing is I went to Santo Taco, which is the new taqueria upstairs at La Esquina, which I just need to say on the record, I think there's been a lot of concern that La Esquina is closed, and it is not closed. The downstairs restaurant is still open. They've just given the upstairs section to Santiago Perez, who I think most people know in the restaurant industry here in New York as a partner with Enrique Olvera at like Atla and Pujol and Damian. And this is his own kind of solo restaurant, and they're doing some really nice, just kind of like perfectly executed tacos. I really like their steak trompo taco that they're doing, which is like strip and sirloin and avocado salsa. Also, their mushroom taco. I love a good mushroom taco that feels like juicy and hefty. And I think they're doing a mix of shiitake and cremini, but it gives you this really nice, like juicy, earthy flavor. And you can just kind of like sit on that corner and eat your tacos. Also, they have a really nice agua fresca that's like a pineapple, cucumber, lime situation.
What's the vibe like there? I mean, are people lining up? Because Ryan Sutton wrote a really long post about this restaurant, and I was instantly interested in going.
Yeah, I was there on like a Thursday early evening, and there was not a line like down the block, but there were certainly a lot of people in line, and it's like a quick turnover kind of. You eat your tacos, you go on your way. So it was moving, but there certainly were a lot of people there. And Santiago, I don't know if he goes by Santo. Santiago was working the line, passing things out to people, which I think to be someone who's such a hospitality veteran, but has been maybe, further removed or higher up to like be in that kind of service capacity, it seemed like he was really enjoying it.
I love that rec. I'm going to have to go. I've heard great things about it. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your next thing?
My next thing is I'm sticking in Barcelona, but it's a little different. It's not an exclusive restaurant where you have to know somebody to get a reservation. This is a food shop. It's called Via Vinoteca, and it's right in the Gothic neighborhood, right where the tourism happens. And listen, Barcelona is a city of tourists. Lots of cruise ships, lots of people. For a reason, it's gorgeous. It's lots of history there. It's wonderful to walk around. But if you're going to Barcelona, I'm giving this rec because, you often when you're traveling, you want to bring back gifts for friends, for colleagues, for co-hosts of podcasts. And I loved this shop so much. The jamon iberico selection is, of course, legend, and there's like 7 or 8 different varieties, all vacuum sealed to take home, which is not legal for the record, but you can sneak it in your bag and they're not going to ask. Just saying that. Lots of conversation with our travelers about if it's legal or not. Well, it's not legal, but just don't tell anyone about what you're packing away. But really what I like about this place is you can go there and buy conservas, and there's like cockles and mussels and tuna and just so many great little tins of fish that can be brought back. I bought some Spanish mayonnaise. I bought some wonderful hard cheeses there, and you can get soft cheeses if you're staying locally in an Airbnb or a hotel. You can get soft cheeses. But if you're there too, you can get your own cheese plate made for you and have a great glass of wine or an NA beer. Really casual little cafe there. I just think like if you're in Barcelona for a short time and you're in that tourist area, which is littered with restaurants, I probably wouldn't recommend. This is the place, Via Vinoteca. Love it.
Great rack, honestly.
Yeah, thanks. What's your next one?
My next one is I went to Tashkent Supermarket yesterday when I was down in Brighton Beach, and I think a lot of people have been talking about their new location that opened off of West 4th Street, which is great. But I do think there's something to be said for going to the source and being surrounded by all of the aunties and grandmas that are picking up their food for the week. It does mean that you have to be like really on what you want at the hot bar. But I, went off the beach and then picked up a bunch of things for dinner. I got a lot of pickles. I got their grated beet salad, which I really like.
Yeah.
Stuffed cabbage, and then plov, which is like the kind of rice pilaf meat situation.
Yeah.
Those are the main things I got, but I really blacked out in the pastry aisle, and I bought so many.
It's like a rage blackout in reverse. It's like a joy blackout.
Yes. Yeah. I just was, I feel like I completely forget what's in my basket. Like to me, I have an empty basket and I just keep filling things up.
Yeah.
And then object permanence. I have no object permanence at Tashkent
yeah.
Supermarket.
When you're shopping for pastries in Brighton Beach.
Their baklava also is incredible. It's the best baklava I've had in recent memory. And I brought one to my Greek friend who I think is very proud of Greek style baklava. And she begrudgingly admitted that it was really good.
Sidebar, what makes great baklava? I'm really curious about your
Good
answer.
question. I think for me, I like it to be, certainly like sticky, honeyed, but I don't want it to be like overwhelming honey flavor. I want the nuts to still be really coming through.
Yes.
And they have like a really generous amount of pistachio and this kind of flaky pastry, but then it is kind of held together really well. Like sometimes when you pick up baklava, the top comes off and this is sandwiched on.
You have when it kind of melts in your hand or deconstructs in your hand, it's totally a bad sign. I agree with you with the honey thing. If it's overpowering and just too sweet, you're not tasting the nuts. You're not tasting any of the finesse there. It's bad if it's only one note. So I agree with you fully.
Yeah, that's my recommendation, is going to have a little beach day and going to Tashkent after.
Tashkent, baby.
What's
Love
your
it.
last thing?
My last thing is I was in Chicago for the James Beard Awards, and we had a really nice lunch at Thatu, which is in the Avondale neighborhood. It's a great Carolyn restaurant. Now listen, I'm not like super up on like every restaurant in New York City, like every restaurant, but to my knowledge, there isn't like a standout Carolyn restaurant in New York City that I am going to seek out. If I'm incorrect, please write in. But I love Carolyn food. I got to collaborate on a cookbook with a Carolyn author, Asha Gomez, and I have always enjoyed the way coconut oil, and the way fried chicken is done there. And I'm loving this restaurant. The chef is Margaret Pak, and her husband is from Kerala, and she's been studying the cuisine for a very long time. And I had a great sambar, which I think a great sambar is something that you want to judge a restaurant by. Of course, there was the fried chicken that came with chadar tots, which were dusted with chaat masala, which I had not tried that combination, and I was like, this is really, really smart and good. And then there was a kandala curry with roasted coconut gravy and two sides, a delicious appam and some jeera rice. And I loved this meal. I want to go back for dinner and try it. It was a little celebratory lunch of James Beard nominees, and I got to sit next to Carolina Gillen on my left, Nicola Lamb on my right, got to catch up about cookbooks, and I just loved their company. So the restaurant is Thatu. And while we're at it, we haven't talked about this on the show, but Taste was nominated for 2 James Beard Awards. I want to recognize Luke Pineson for his nomination in Personal Essay, and Adam Reiner won a James Beard Award for his feature on Trader Joe's and how Trader Joe's likes to steal IP. I'll just leave it at that. I think you probably read the story when it came out last year, but Adam gave just the most gracious speech about the people in the piece. He was giving credit to them, which I thought was so gracious of him. Major congratulations to Adam on that, and to Luke as well for the nomination. And I was only in Chicago for a few nights, and this was a real highlight. The restaurant is Thatu.
Yeah, they're both such great writers and such important pieces, and I'm glad that you got to celebrate there. It sounds
Yeah,
like a good meal.
it was a great meal. What is your last of three things?
My last thing is, did you know that Natura is doing event catering?
No idea, and I bet it's not cheap.
It's delicious is what it is. I was at Faccia Bruto. They did a party for their 5th anniversary at their headquarters, and I walked into this warehouse and avoided my friends, avoided the bar, went directly to pick up some of this most delicious fruit. They had like a platter with really good salty, flaky cheese and plums. They had peach, like burrata salad. They had snap pea, crudité, pasta salad, all these incredible things. And I went up to my friend Tavo, who was doing the PR for the event, and started telling him about how incredible all the food was. And he told me that Natura had started doing catering, which, if you're listening and you're not familiar, they're a really great grocery delivery service for restaurants, but also home cooks kind of in New York, but also around the world to a certain extent. We've had them on the show to talk about their incredible sourcing practices in the past. And I think it just made so much sense to me that at least here in New York, they would be expanding into, not only providing the raw ingredients, but cooking them, arranging them, having them be as part of a party. And it really was just like the first time that I had so many fruits of the summer. Like I got to cross like 7 things off my bucket list that I've been wanting to eat. So it was very exciting.
Natura is great. They have wonderful produce delivery, and the fact that you could just dial up a fruit basket or a crudité plate from them, I like that.
It was awesome. And also, it went so well with Faccia Bruto. I really loved their drinks, and I had a delicious spritz, and it was just such a lovely way to kick off summer.
And what branding. That brand, they just got that on lock.
They've got it dialed in.
So good. Well, thanks for sharing your 3 things.
You too. Aimee France, this is Taste. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to have you in the studio today. I feel like you're someone that I have so many random little food questions for, and I'm excited we get to chat.
Yeah, me too. I feel like we have like random like memories as well, like the cake scene party so long ago that I made the cake for at Farm to People.
That was that was like the second cake scene event. So I think we were still understanding the full scale of what we were embarking upon and what it feels like to distribute cake to a very large crowd of excited people. And you handled it like a pro.
Yeah, it was fun.
Do you remember the cake that you made?
Yeah, it was. I did like a take on peanut butter and jelly because it was the fall time. So I think I did something with like grapes and cranberry jam. And then a black sesame buttercream. It might have just been like a plain olive oil cake, but I remember it was black.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the Wicked Cake party. So I think a lot of people embarked on a kind of spooky, scary kind of cake situation, which is why it was black. But I remember it just being delicious and realizing that we were going to have to deconstruct and pass it out to people in real time, which is such a, like, honestly harrowing experience. But you seemed fine.
Yeah, it was chill. I looked back on videos that people took. I feel like I was like, my eyes were like bugging while I was cutting it. I couldn't stop giggling, but it was like a beautiful experience, a great memory to have.
We're trauma bonded forever. I want to ask you, before we talk about anything else, what you had for breakfast today, because I think that people who follow you on Instagram have a really strong interest and fixation on your breakfasts, and I'm one of them.
I love that. Thank you. Okay, right now I'm in the yogurt granola bowl like fixation because it's summer and there's just so many cool and interesting berries at the farmer's market right now. So I had some Greek yogurt with a plethora of berries, golden raspberries, black raspberries, blackberries, and I got alpine strawberries at the market. Cherry Lane Farms had them. They're like this like variety of really tiny strawberry, but they taste like grape nerds.
Whoa.
Like the candy. So cool. So I had that and then a jammy egg. Just like I always need to have a savory element with it. Obviously the 3 drink minimum. Green juice. Had a mint tea. And then in the summer I like to have an Americano. And I put a little bit of honey in it just to kind of cut the acidity a bit. So it's not like a super sweet coffee drink, but it just like makes it not as bitter and intense, I guess.
Do you make the green juice or you buy it?
I buy it from I wish I had a juicer. I really do. I just like don't really have the space in my apartment
You would
for
be
it.
too powerful if you had a juicer.
That would be iconic. If anyone wants to send me one, I would take that. But there's a grocery store in my neighborhood that I call the Erewhon of Bushwick. Like and they have a juice bar, but they sell just like little bottles of juice that you can buy, and they have great green juice.
Is this the Hana Market off of the Jefferson L?
No, I'm gonna gatekeep it though, just to not to dox my location.
Okay,
But
that's fair.
I can tell you
Off the mic.
Off mic, yeah.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate the plethora of berries. I have a follow-up question, which is I don't think I've ever had a black raspberry before.
Really?
Does it taste any different?
It's in the bramble family, and I would say it's similar to think like a raspberry, but a blackberry had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, I feel like blackberries can be like super sweet, and this is definitely a little bit more tart. I grew up, like they just kind of grew. They're super invasive in New England, and they just kind of grow on the street. And for the longest time, when I wasn't super knowledgeable about foraging and like the difference between a bramble and a blackberry and a black raspberry, I always thought they were blackberries. And then I learned more, and I was like, oh my God, these are kind of like a coveted item that's just growing everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always really fun when they arrive at the farmer's market.
Do you think if you were blindfolded and did a taste test, you could tell the difference between a normal raspberry, a golden raspberry, and a black raspberry?
I think so.
I wish I had them all in front of me, but I didn't know they
I
existed.
know, we should have done a taste test.
I'm interested in hearing more about how you grew up, and I'm wondering if you have an early food memory that you could share with me that you think shed some kind of light into the way that you thought about food or think about food.
Yeah, so I grew up in New Hampshire, and just like, I always say it's like a Boston suburb because I literally lived on the Massachusetts border. And I don't know, I feel like I don't have like a ton of early food memories for some reason. It wasn't like the things that I remember is my mom would make like meatloaf, like just like normal dinners, and then she would occasionally make some type of like Portuguese food because I'm half Portuguese. But she did like always bake my birthday cake every year. And she worked at a bakery in high school and then I think like early college. And there was this cake. The bakery was called Perry's Bakery, and it was a chocolate cake. And she would always make it for my birthday. And I remember being in the kitchen, like watching her at the stand mixer making it. And I was always really scared of the stand mixer. It just intimidated me. But I always liked watching her make the birthday cake. Like it was such a cool thing. And then I think as I got older, I started to use a stand mixer and I wasn't scared of it. And then I was like, oh wait, I could like make this cake myself. In high school, I went vegan, and I think that was kind of a turning point of me getting into cooking because my mom was like, okay, you can go vegan, but I'm not cooking you a separate meal. And I think that got me more involved in like, you know, discovering produce in a way that I'd never seen it before, just because I was like eating such a plant-based diet. And I think that experience, like without ever going vegan, I don't think I would cook the way that I do now, even though I don't have any dietary restrictions anymore.
Yeah, I think it's especially interesting to be a baker because I think there is this whole world of vegan baking, but it requires a lot of kind of knowledge and imagination to think about how do you constitutionally make a cake or something without those ingredients. So I think even though that's not the kind of baking that you do right now, it makes sense to me that you have that kind of knowledge or that kind of way of thinking about things.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of how I started out everything, because actually like a decent amount of the components of my cakes are accidentally vegan. The base cake that I make is vegan, and a lot of the fillings, just because that's kind of how I started out making them, and I mean, you wouldn't really know. But I think it was cool to learn the science behind kind of how do I recreate this texture and the same mouthfeel and everything. in a vegan version. And I think going unvegan and then actually being able to taste the real thing
Mm-hmm.
and then trying to recreate it in a vegan version was like a cool food science learning experience for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I want to talk a little bit more about maybe what draws you to cake as a medium, because I think the reason why a lot of people know who you are today is through this cake baking business that you were able to launch on Instagram during the pandemic and have this really kind of strong, I don't know if viral is the right word for it, but just kind of like a visceral reaction from people who are seeing your cakes. Like, what made you want to be making cake, and how did you land on the style of cake that you do?
I was making cakes for fun before the pandemic, and I would just kind of post them on my, like, I had like a private Instagram account, and I was posting them, and then just kind of during the pandemic, I ended up being at my parents' house, like, by accident. I didn't, like, mean to be there. I was just supposed to go home for my birthday literally the day before the pandemic happened, and then I just couldn't come back to New York. And I was also in college. I never got to do an internship, so I was like, maybe I should try to teach myself, like, everything about baking
Hmm.
just 'cause I have the time. Um, and I just started making cakes for some reason. I don't know why I was drawn to cakes specifically, but I don't know, maybe because there was a lot of seasonal produce available and I was near a ton of farms. So I would go berry picking with my mom and then we would make a cake with it or I'd make a jam. Um, and I think I really like the process of making a cake and all of the thinking behind the flavor combination and everything. And just, I don't know, a cake's it's like such a celebratory thing and it's so beautiful
Yeah.
when you have the end result.
You have a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, exactly. That, like, it felt good. Like, you made it and you're like, "Okay, like, I did this one, like, what's next? Like, what can I do next?"
And then when did you transition into having it be a business where people were ordering cake from you?
So, when I ended up coming back to New York, I had all of these recipes and I was like, "I feel like I have an Instagram following, maybe I could try to do a pop-up and sell stuff." So, I did Hester Street Fair when it was actually, like, still on Hester Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I just bought a table and I did a pop-up and it sold out. And that was kind of a moment of being like, whoa, there's actually like demand for this. Um, and then from the pop-ups, I was just like, from word of mouth, I got commissioned orders and it started being a steady thing. And then I was about to graduate college and my parents were like, okay, like, are you getting a job? And I was like, I think I can start a business. Like, I have a decent amount of money saved and I'm like still getting orders and I kind of just took the risk and it somehow ended up working out. I feel so grateful and when I talk about it, it also like doesn't fully feel real still.
Mm.
It's just I don't know. Just like a very interesting position for me to be in and I definitely think like other people that make cakes similar to me that started around the pandemic time feel a very similar way to the whole thing. How it just like, I don't know, it really organically happened.
Obviously, cake is something that I have thought a lot about through the context of doing Cake Scene. And I
Yeah.
think one of the reasons why we wanted to start Cake Scene in the first place was that we were on Instagram at home on our phones during the pandemic and seeing your cakes and Gigi's cakes and
Oh,
all
yeah,
of these other
Gigi.
cake bakers who were posting these beautiful creations and having this incredible response. And I think obviously the cake itself was inspirational, but also the way that it was clearly hitting a chord with people. It just felt like the right time to be seriously talking about like what is it about cake that is so interesting to us. And I think coming out of that, like when the pandemic started to recede and people were able to gather together more and to go to places, yourself and these other cake bakers were able to, you know, not just be making cake that people are looking at, but actually buying and eating and sharing together. And now we're at the point in time where yesterday you and I both were at the St. Street Cakes bakery opening. And that's an
Yeah.
example of an Instagram baker who's opening her own brick and mortar. And From Lucy, all these other examples of that.
Totally. Yeah, that was such like a beautiful thing to see because I don't really ever see myself opening a bakery, but seeing a person that literally was in like the exact same position as me do it, I'm like, wow, that is such an accomplishment. Cause just like, I don't know, opening a business, there's so much that goes into the home cake business. I can't even imagine like actually opening a real store and everything that goes into it. That's like 10 times more
Yeah.
pressure and just work and everything.
Staff and
Yeah,
everything.
totally.
As a self-taught baker who made your own business, how did you approach pricing and making it an actual business for like something that you can, not only be sustaining as yourself, but also as like a long-term project?
I feel like there was a point where I was really undercharging for things just because I think when you are making a product like that, it's really difficult to kind of understand the worth of it and
Mhm.
how much time goes into making a cake. Like, it's not just a one-day affair. It's taking multiple days. Plus, when you're one person, like, you're doing the shopping, you're doing all the prep work, you're doing all the dishes, like, so many dishes. Then you have to, like, actually make the cake. It's just, like,
Coordinating with the orders.
exactly. The emails, like, there's so much that goes into it, and I really think you have to kind of price your time plus, like, ingredient prices and everything, and if you wanna use stuff from the farmer's market, obviously, that's more expensive,
I mean, you're selling an in-demand product that only you make. So I think there's a
yeah.
certain degree of interest and also accessibility that is just going to be different than someone who wants to go to a bakery that can produce, hundreds of cakes in a week.
Yeah, exactly, especially when it's just, like, one person doing all the work. I think a lot of people feel like I have a staff or I can, like, afford to hire a staff and everything, and when it's just one person, it's like people don't really know all the behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and Instagram can definitely make things seem a lot more glamorous than they actually are, for sure.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's a highlight reel for people.
Yeah, totally.
Aimee, I have to ask you about your former Instagram handle, Young Kombucha 420, which I think is such an iconic handle and no longer around anymore. And I'm wondering if you could tell me where that genius came from and then also when it was time to retire it.
I still have the handle.
Good.
It's just on, like, my personal Instagram account now. So, the way that it came about is my food account started as a Finsta, basically. So I was in college and I was posting just food from the cafeteria and the oatmeal I would make in my dorm room. Like, that's what it started out as. And I was like, dang, like, I need a funny name for this. Like, what should I do? So, I don't know why I did young. Maybe because I was in, like, a huge, like, young lean phase or
And we're
something.
talking young YUNG.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or just, like, I feel like a lot of rappers had that
Yes.
as, like, part of their name, so maybe that's why. Kombucha, I don't know, I was just, like, a kombucha lover, like, I really liked it, and then 420 was because I used to smoke weed. Um, I don't anymore, but yeah. So that's kinda how the name came about. I never thought it would catch on or anything like it did, but I guess it had amazing SEO.
Well, it's kind of also, as the viewer, really fun to encounter this like beautiful, elaborate cake under the Instagram handle Young Kombucha 420.
Yeah, true, it's kinda like an oxymoron in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I had the username for a while, and I think it got to a point where things were starting to get professional, and I was working with, like, brands and stuff, and I feel like I kinda have a firsty lasty name as well, and I had the handle Aimee France as, like, my personal Instagram account. Oh, I think it was also my, like, 24th birthday, or maybe it was my 25th birthday, and I was like, "Okay, I think I can do, like, a birthday announcement and change the name, and people won't get, like, upset." Because people, like, low-key got sad about it. They were like, "Why did you change it?"
It's like end of an era.
Yeah.
Do people still refer to you that way?
Yeah. I still get emails about cake orders, they're like, "Hello, Young." Like they think it's like my real name. um, but yeah, I think just like for business purposes and I don't know, like branding myself, it's a bit more professional.
Yeah.
But long live
Young
Young Kombucha
kombucha,
420. You
young
can still
kombucha
call me
420
that.
forever.
Yeah, call it the Young Kombucha cake. Like I still like that.
I know you have an injury, so you're not baking as much right now, but in a typical week for you, what are you spending your time on? Are you baking mostly for orders, or is it for an event, or a mix of the two, or some other thing?
Mostly it's just private clients, people that order cakes either for a party or a wedding or just like they want a cake for an event. And then every week I'll make, I don't know, like 10 to 20 mini cakes just that I sell through I post on my Instagram story and pre-sell them and then they kind of sell out and people pick them up. Um but it really depends on the time of year and how much there's ebbs and flows with every business, and the summer gets kind of busy because of weddings. Holidays are really busy. Beginning of the year is usually kind of slow. So I can go from a week where I'm just making one cake and I'll be like, okay, maybe I should just like make some mini cakes this week so I can, like sell them. And then there's some weeks where I have to like not take any more orders because it's just like too much. Like I'll have like 5 cakes and I'm just like, I can't do
Not
it
enough
anymore.
fridge space, yeah.
Yeah, not enough fridge space. My fridge and then like my little mini fridge that I store with butter.
You have a fridge just for butter?
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's right. I want to talk about aesthetics a little bit also. I'm struggling to find exactly how I describe the Aimee France Young Kombucha style of cake, but it's these like kind of abstract, like almost like drippy, like all these decorative elements, a lot of icing that's kind of achieving these effects. I'm curious how you landed on that aesthetic and if you think that it's something that you've been shifting over time or if it's kind of like a core signature.
Okay, so I get asked this question a lot, and it's like really difficult to answer because I feel like one day I decided to pipe a cake, and my mom gave me all of her fancy piping tips.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, like I'm not just gonna like slab it on with the offset this time. Like I'm actually gonna pipe it. And then I was trying to put all these tips in the bag and I don't know why I couldn't figure it out. I just got like so ticked off that I just cut the piping bag and I started piping the cake. And then that's just kind of like how it came out. And then I kept experimenting with different patterns, I guess, of just like lines and dots. And that's just kind of how I started decorating them. I guess I'm kind of inspired by crown molding or like
Mm-hmm.
Baroque architecture type stuff. I went to Newport, Rhode Island. I'm like from that area, but my parents and I went and looked at the Newport mansions. You can like tour them. And that was a super inspiring experience, just like seeing all of the really intricate designs in all of the buildings. And I think that kind of inspires the cakes that, like, if I have a wedding cake, the more really like intricate piping that I do. But other than that, I feel like it's just kind of like, I know this is like annoying to say, but like it just like kind of like came from my head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how else to describe it.
I mean, that's how good ideas happen sometimes. And I'm
True.
interested to hear about the kind of architectural inspiration. I feel like the farmers market is obviously a big source of inspiration for you too, but I'm curious if there are any other things that you find kind of creatively inspiring. It could even be, something completely unrelated to food, but you think there's something in the energy that somehow feeds you.
I would say maybe just like patterns and textures. It doesn't even have to be like a food texture. Like, I don't know, I'm like looking at the rug here, just like the lines in a
Mhm.
way, or just when you look at maybe like a fabric or something like that, shapes of like leaves or flowers, things like that. Not in the way of me putting a flower on the cake, but kind of trying to replicate the shape in
And
a
the
way.
geometry of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I think one of the interesting things about being a baker in a city like New York is that there are so many other people that are making cake and pastry and other things and kind of contributing to this ever shifting landscape of what people are interested in eating here.
Totally agree. There's so many talented people that make cakes, and like everyone's style is so unique. Like the people, I mean, like the people that like really started the core of, like all the articles are like wacky cakes, but everyone's
There was like a series, it would be like
yeah,
wacky cakes, then it would be like trippy cakes. Like there was the
yeah,
same word but mildly different every time.
yeah. But I don't know, like we all kind of started around the same time, but everyone's cakes are like you see a cake and you're like, that's a Yip Studio cake.
Mm-hmm.
That's a frosted hag cake. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You just like exactly know who made it because the style is so distinct and unique.
Yes. There's someone who's been making cake on Instagram who I can tell is very, let's say, inspired by this one other baker, but I feel like it's getting into the point of like replication. And this is such a pet peeve for me. Like, I don't think anyone else would care. Maybe you would care. Like the cake people in New York would care, but I see it and I just like, I'm screaming to myself. I'm like, this is so-and-so's cake.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I think like for me, sometimes I'll get like commissions and someone will send me a photo of another cake artist's cake
Mm.
and they're like, this is what I want. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like that. I mean, like personally for me, because it's like art, like you wouldn't go and copy someone else's painting and then sell it. So like I would never, I could like, I'll be like, yeah, like I can use it as inspiration. Like it's not going to look anything like that. But if you want that type of cake, like you should get it from the artist that like specializes in that design. I don't think you should ask for it from another person and like or try to replicate it and then like take the credit as your own. I say that respectfully.
No, I think it's from a place of like respect. And I think the best comparison is tattoo artists, maybe, because I think tattoo artists similarly have gotten to the point in the cultural space where people will seek out specific artists and specific style. And I think a lot of artists will say, don't bring me someone else's flash and ask me to tattoo it. Like that's a big line in the sand.
Yeah, that's actually a perfect example. Yeah.
I'm curious if you think that the same part of your brain that makes pastry is at play when you're making savory food. I know that you don't necessarily like sell your sandwiches or your salads or things, but as someone that is very interested in what you're making and sharing online, it does seem like there's a certain degree of kind of like layering or seasonality that is at play in both of those.
Yeah, totally. I love just kind of like using what's in season and whatever is in my fridge and throwing together a meal with it. I think that's so fun. Obviously I like scrolling through Pinterest and kind of finding basic ideas for meals and then I'm like, okay, how can I recreate this with just like what's in my pantry? But I also feel like I went through a serious phase of burnout with making cakes and just like dessert in general that making like I'm like really into making the little food videos right now.
Yeah.
Because I find it such like a exciting new kind of creative outlet because for a while, I think when passion becomes career, you can become really stuck in a routine and you lose the inspiration to make what you like originally were loving to make. And I was kind of like when I started posting more food videos, I was discovering and kind of feeling that excitement around food again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I like making videos and editing and just kind of sharing what I'm making on a daily basis. Like I admire people that really, make a video and it's like a whole production around a recipe, but I kind of just like, setting up the camera and being like, all right, this is the sandwich I'm going to make. And then I'm making it. And then maybe I had an idea in my head, but maybe I'll be like, oh, I should add this to it just like while I'm making it. And then, that's just like what comes out. You're making something with whatever is in the house. It doesn't like, I'm not going out to like buy all these ingredients to make this like epic recipe, I guess.
But you also keep a well-stocked fridge and pantry. So I do feel like they are pretty epic in the end result.
Oh, well, thank you.
I have 2 follow-up questions. The first is, should I be looking for food on Pinterest? I've never done that.
Okay, you need to get in a good Pinterest algorithm because
Yeah.
it can be evil Pinterest food, when it's like, you know what I'm talking about, like
kale brownie.
yeah, like weird recipes.
Mhm.
But if you get to the aesthetic side of Pinterest, it's just like pretty pictures of food. I don't know, like you'll see a pasta dish or something. Or, oh, you know what I saw today that looked so good that I want to recreate? It was like, I don't even know, like maybe they were like kind of like confit tomatoes, but they were skinned, but they were like still intact with oil on the bottom. And then each tomato, like, was like 5 beautiful tomatoes on a plate. And then they all had like an anchovy,
Ooh.
all like layer, like beautifully laid on top of it. And I was like, I want to make that.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you get different food content on Pinterest as opposed to Instagram?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's more condensed because I feel like on Instagram it's way more video.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of food trends in a way. Same thing on TikTok. This is more just pretty pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw like a checkerboard, but it was tiles of watermelon and feta.
Wait, I saw that yesterday too.
Oh, is that on Pinterest or is that on Instagram?
I think I saw it on Instagram.
So I don't have
story.
food Pinterest, but that does seem like something that would maybe be in that food Pinterest universe.
Yeah.
And it looked really good.
No, yeah, it did. I feel like we watched the same Instagram story.
Probably. My other question was about making these kind of talking to camera videos that you do, because maybe it's like a generational thing, because I think I'm a couple years older, but I really don't like talking on camera or like posting videos of myself, even though I obviously have a podcast, so I'm fine with talking. Like, do you feel any type of way about that?
I used to. I remember when I first started my Instagram account and I was only posting cakes, like I didn't want to show my face. I just wanted it to be about the food. And I realized that people want to see like the person behind
Mm-hmm.
doing it. Like people are nosy and they're curious about the actual person as much as they're curious about the food. So I kind of just had to be like, suck it up and put yourself in front of the camera. And people aren't lying when they say it gets easier as you do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think at first I felt super awkward, and I low-key like still do sometimes, especially when I go visit my parents and I'm like, guys, like I'm working, but like I'm in the kitchen like filming a video and I'm like, guys, like be quiet, be quiet.
Mm-hmm. And they've seen you since you were born. So
Yeah.
they are like, wow, who are you talking to?
Yeah, exactly. And I still feel awkward in those situations, but I don't know. I feel like you get comfortable after a while for sure.
I record videos of me trying food, like the influencer thing in the car whenever I have a car, but I don't post them. I send them
Oh my God, you
to
should.
like my girlfriend and Tanya, who I do cake scene with. But I went to like Jollibee for the first time and I sent them a video, or we were in Taiwan and I was trying like a Japanese Haagen-Dazs ice cream flavor. And I did like a whole holding it up to the camera, like the whole
Yes.
influencer style, which I do think is really fun if it's on your own terms, you know?
Yeah, I think just don't take it too seriously. People take TikTok and Instagram like so serious, and it's just like, it's not that serious. It's just social media at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
why do we really care?
Is it funny to you to be hearing from people like, oh, I put toasted walnuts in yogurt for the first time because I saw you do it for breakfast and it looks so good?
I think it's so cool because I think you forget sometimes that people don't think the same way you do, or they just like, maybe they didn't grow up learning that stuff. And it's really, I don't know, it kind of like, it really warms my heart that someone could learn a skill like that from me. Like people come up to me on the street all the time and will say something like that, and I'm like, I'm gonna like shed a tear. It's so
Mhm.
sweet. Also, like the fact that people have the courage to like say that to you. I don't know. It's very sweet.
Yeah. Does that happen to you a lot?
Yeah.
Does it happen in like, are you like, I'm going to Greenpoint today, I know this is going to happen to me? Is it like neighborhood specific or is it just wherever?
I feel like it's kind of wherever
Mm-hmm.
in the city. but it's always sweet. Like, I don't mind.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad people are being polite and kind when they approach you.
Yeah, totally.
So I guess we've established that you don't want to open a bakery. I'm curious if you have any goals for the future.
Okay, well, since I'm at like a standstill with my wrist right now, I feel like I'm in a state of kind of uncertainty right now. So I guess since I'm having my unemployed summer, that's what I keep calling it, or like my summer of yes and healing. um, I think right now I want to focus on posting videos and doing more like video content. Um, Maybe I'll do like YouTube or something since I'm gonna have more time because that's the thing. The cake business takes up so much of my time that even though I'm posting all of these videos, like I'm doing that on top of a full-time job basically. So, and there can be kind of like burnout in that situation just creatively. So I'm really excited to focus on just like social media right now, which is like a privilege to say. Um, but besides, like, I feel like whenever people ask me what my, like, what's next, like, what's in the next 5 years, I'm like, I don't really know. um, I feel like eventually I would like to write a book, but not a baking book. I don't want to write a baking book. Um,
But like a cookbook of some kind, maybe?
yeah,
Yeah.
something along those lines. But besides that, I think I'm just going with the flow and I'm open to opportunities to come to me.
And the free
I'm
juicer.
manifesting.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
manifesting the juicer.
Yes, the juicer.
I do think it would make so much sense for you. I mean, maybe it's because we're talking here at Penguin Random House, but I think it would make a lot of sense to do a food book that is a mixture of savory and sweet and grocery shopping and just kind of the Aimee France point of view.
Oh, thank you.
Because I
think it would
do
be
think
fun.
of you as like a very specific person. Do you think that you've always had kind of a specific, singular preferences or aesthetic, that kind of thing?
I would say so.
Would your parents say so?
Yes.
Yeah.
They would say I'm picky about things, for sure. Or like I've always been super routine oriented, I feel. I think I get it from my dad, honestly. I don't know. I have like a way of like things have to be done a certain way. Some may say I'm a perfectionist. I would say that I am, for sure.
Some would say I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
Well, I will think of you the next time I'm having 3 beverages. Right now I only have 2 next to me, and I feel like I'm slacking off a little bit.
No, that's good.
I'm almost there.
Yeah.
I want to play a little rapid fire game with you to close. Speaking of having preferences, I'm going to ask you some questions. You can just give me the first answer that comes into your head.
Okay.
Okay, your favorite cookbook right now?
I like Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat because I just think it's really informative and not really a cookbook, but more of an encyclopedia of flavor combinations, the Flavor Bible, but specifically the vegetarian one.
Oh, I didn't know there was a vegetarian one.
I kind of like it more than the original one.
Okay, hot tip.
Yeah.
Your favorite kind of icing to use for cake decorating?
Oh, it's not an American buttercream, but it's also like not a Swiss meringue. It's kind of like a secret third thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
She studied abroad in Europe.
Yeah.
Your favorite farmer's market?
Union Square, Wednesday morning.
Are you an early riser?
Like early, but I'm not getting there when all the chefs are getting there. Like
Okay.
I'm getting there and then they're already kind of leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your go-to bodega snack?
Not a snack, but I would definitely get like a cup of ice with like like a soda. That in the summer, that hits different. Or a popsicle.
Wait, that's such a good idea. I've never
You've
thought.
never gotten a cup of ice?
Well, I mean, in my life, I've bought ice, but I've never thought to like make my own iced drink at the bodega. I'm just drinking my cold can as it gets increasingly warmer, like a
Oh yeah.
plebeian.
Look in the cooler.
Wow.
I got the cups of ice.
See, this is what I mean about like the walnut yogurt combination. Like that sounds obvious, but then you think about it if you've never done that before, and it
Oh, yeah.
does change your life.
Totally.
Okay. Your go-to ice cream flavor?
hard ice cream, black raspberry. If I'm in Rhode Island, I'd get coffee because Rhode Island has like the best coffee ice cream. Soft serve, twist, like chocolate vanilla.
Do you do topping on it or no?
Chocolate sprinkles. Yeah.
What's different about the coffee ice cream in Rhode Island?
It just tastes different.
Okay.
Like, I don't know.
It's better.
You have to experience it to know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Your favorite like occasion restaurant in New York?
I think the past few years for my birthday, I've gone to PDF, Place des Fêtes. That place is really nice.
Yeah.
And the staff is really sweet as well. It's like always really good service.
Your favorite like quick lunch in New York?
Takahashi Bakery on Wyckoff Ave, yeah. Because I think it's incredible that they sell half sandwiches. Like you don't have to buy a full sandwich, and they're like delicious on milk bread, egg salad specifically. Really well done. Don't be an egg salad hater. Like it's so good.
That's not for me, but I love it for you. Your favorite bakery in New York?
I like La Bicyclette. I think they have the best baguette. But also Elbow is cool.
The most underrated kitchen tool, in your opinion?
Mini whisk. I have so many mini whisks.
What's like a mini whisk good for?
Salad dressing. Just like mixing anything. Like just like a perfect emulsifier.
Mixing in a smaller container also is useful.
Yes. Oh, honorable mention, immersion blender. I love an immersion blender.
A controversial pastry opinion? Do you have any?
I think you should always bake with salted butter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why?
I just think dessert can be like too sweet.
Do you then you bake with the salted butter? If you're using someone else's recipe, you bake with the salted butter and then do you keep the salt amount the same in the rest of the recipe?
Depends. I'd have to like see the recipe. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. But you feel like just start from a place where it could be a little salty.
Yeah. Like I think the salted butter should be used.
Okay. I like that opinion. Okay. Finally, a fictional food scene like from a book or a movie or something made up that you wish you could magically eat in real life.
Mr. Magoo's A Christmas
laughing,
Carol. No, because this is so specific. This is like a really random movie. Like I feel like people don't know it.
This has never been mentioned to me, but
but I grew up watching this Christmas movie, and there's this like one scene at the end where it's kind of like a musical vibe. Like there's lots of songs throughout it, but it's like Tiny Tim, and he's singing about how he like likes raspberry dressing, which not exactly sure what that is, but there's like a Christmas tree covered in it looks like these like little shortbread cookies with this jam on the inside. Oh my god. You'd have to see a picture, but they just looked so good.
Is raspberry like the fourth kind of raspberry that we've been talking about?
Maybe it's raspberry. But yeah, those cookies.
An incredible answer from an incredible guest. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Aimee. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, thank you. So fun.
This is Taste is hosted and produced by Matt Rodbard and me, Eliza Barbanel. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell, logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.